Shalom. We are in Torah portion or Parasha Bamidbar. That means in the wilderness. This is the first session in the book of Numbers, and the theme of this Torah portion is about taking a census. Now there are 10 censuses that has been taken, and the 10th one is the one recorded in Revelation. So I think this is the first one that happens. I will put that in next week's Torah portion, since we are into patterns and counting and all that. That will be good to look at that as well. Now this Sabbath, I want to discuss the Feast of Shavuot, which traditionally will be this coming Sunday. If you count 7 Sabbaths, the day after the last Sabbath, which is unleavened bread, and the day after the 7th. So Sabbath is always the Saturday, so Shavuot is always on a Sunday. But that doesn't really work that way if you think about how to count and what we discovered in counting the Omer, because that will only bring you to 11 days prior to the mountain. So they are still in the wilderness on their way to the mountain this Sunday. But we are going to conclude our study from last week, and there's multiple levels of evidence that I'm going to bring in on top of what I already presented last week on confirming specifically the number 18 and the number 28. So those two numbers, number 18 is the day of the 3rd month where Yahweh spoke, and number 28 is the 28th of the 4th month, a month later, when Moses came back with the first set of tablets. And that was supposed to be the Feast of Shavuot. And what did they celebrate? They celebrated the golden calf, and Moses broke the tablets. Now, because of that inconsistency, that little wobble that happened, we saw a couple of wobbles throughout our Torah portion studies this year. Now, this is another wobble. Now, what this wobble relates to is a second set of tablets. It wasn't the plan of Yahweh. It is an alternative emergency plan, if you like, to fix the problem that Israel caused and the fact that Moses broke the tablets. They needed the tablets. The tablets are very important, and Yahweh had to replace them. So he called Moses back up the mountain again, and that is the 8th ascension, which links to the future ascension and coming down of Mashiach with the set of tablets in his hands, where he will teach the Torah from the mountain. So that is our storyline that encapsulate everything about Shavuot. But the blueprint for Shavuot actually end on day 28 of the 4th month. The 103 count and from the count of Omer from 103 onwards, we don't know the day or the hour, because there's not enough information in the book of Exodus to count the days from when Moses came down with the tablet, sorting out the people, grinding down the gold, making them drinking the gold mud, going into a stand, speak to Yahweh face to face. That could have been a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe a month period where all of those things happened, and then he went up the mountain for another 40 days. So all of that pushed us into month 7, plus minus. And the reason I'm saying month 7, which is the Feast of Yom Teruah, the Feast of Trumpets, which is about the second coming. It is about Moses coming down the second time, and that fulfills the pattern perfectly. So trumpets, or Yom Teruah, is the second or delayed Feast of Shavuot. It is still the Feast of Shavuot. It's still related to the blowing of the trumpet. But what we saw last week, it's the blowing of the long trumpet. When you hear the long sound of the trumpet, which is the last trumpet or the seventh one, then you can come up to the mountain, and then you can come into the outer court and approach the tabernacle, the temple, or the New Jerusalem after he's coming down from heaven. So all of this is perfectly in sync with what we are teaching. Now, what I want to highlight is that Shavuot starts with first fruits and it ends with trumpets. It's a very long festival. And it's actually not only a festival, it is a process. And it includes cleansing at the foot of the mountain. It actually includes walking to the mountain, leaving Egypt. That's the first step of Shavuot. The second step of Shavuot is to cleanse yourself at the foot of the mountain. The third step of Shavuot is to say, I do, accepting the words. The next step, the fourth step, is to receive the commandments and to get rid of your previous husband, which is Baal. Now we're going to look at that this Sabbath, this Saturday. And then thereafter, it also included all of the instructions regarding the tabernacle that Moses received on the mountain. So Shavuot is still in the context of all of that. And then Moses came down, and then they are going to build the golden calf after celebration. So it's all about getting rid of false doctrines. Shavuot is about the process of that. And then it's about receiving the renewed covenant, which is the second set. That's also a theme of Shavuot. And then it is about entering the wilderness. That's where Bamidbar, this Torah portion, is about. Still within the theme of Shavuot. Up to the point where we are going to enter the Feast of Yom Teruah, the trumpets, where they enter into the land. All of that is still to do with Shavuot, and it's all to do with counting. It's all to do with these little milestones or pit stops, if you like, and the themes associated with it. So we remember, that's what count or recount means, to remember the things that happened on each one of those events, each one of those days. Now we are going to discover a few more things as we travel through the wilderness. A lot of enemies and a lot of things to overcome in the wilderness, a lot of murmuring and complaining, and we're dealing with them, trying to take them out again. So all of that is part of the Shavuot process, traveling through the wilderness, which is this life. So exciting study, getting a very good insight of Shavuot on how it actually is like a big mountain. If you have like a food net, those metal ones, you put it over the food. Shavuot is like that, where it touches on Passover and unleavened bread on this end, it goes over everything, and then it touches on the other end on trumpets and Yom Kippur, which is everything about Shavuot. We're also going to look at the theme of Shavuot for this year is about the bride saying I do, getting pregnant, and giving birth. So that is what's happening this Sabbath. So a lot of interesting, exciting topics to discuss. Looking forward into sharing that with you all. Hope you have a lovely day, and I'll speak to you soon. Shalom.